Hello, this is Brett Lonsdale from Lightning Tools, and I'm here with Coda, who's from Theobald Software. Coda, do you want to say hi?
Yeah, hi everyone. Here's Coda from TwoPart Software.
So yeah, we're here today. We're going to be talking about business connectivity services and how we can use the product from Theobald Software in order to connect to SAP business systems and bring data into SharePoint via business connectivity services. And we're going to be looking at that for both SharePoint Online as well as also SharePoint on-premises. So if you've had any experience of connecting to SAP in the past, it's extremely complex, and Code is going to show you a way where we can very easily, using their toolset from Theobald, make that a code-free experience on connecting to an SAP environment, and like I say, utilizing that data inside of SharePoint. Coda, I'll let you introduce yourself, and then I'll introduce myself as well. So over to you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, hi everyone again. So my name is Coda Elsein, and I'm from TwoPart Software. I'm responsible for pre-sales and product management and located in Stuttgart, Germany. I'm delighted to talk to you today with Brett, our partner, about SAP integration with SharePoint. And in 1 minute, I will talk to you later.
Fantastic. So thank you very much, Coda. And yeah, I'm Brett Lonsdale. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Lightning Tools. And business connectivity services, or business data catalog as it is formerly known, has always been something that has been a big interest of mine. We back 10 years ago created a tool called BDC MetaMan, and that allowed us to connect to external data sources. And I've written books for the SharePoint community and presented many times on business connectivity services, or BDC, like I say, as it was formerly known. And one of the challenging things for us was the fact that really you had to be a rocket scientist or something in order to be able to connect to SAP. So BDC MetaMan and BCS MetaMan allowed us to connect to lots of different data sources, including Oracle and things like that. But rather than try and reinvent something that Coda's organization has created, we became partners, and we offer their tool for sale through Lightning Tools. So hence we're co-presenting today on the solution. Later on in the demonstration, I'll also be presenting a couple of our products to you, and this will show you how really the partnership works together. And that is our data visualization products, the data viewer and charting. But Coda, I'll let you go through the full agenda and introduce Theobald to everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Brett. So far here, as you see the agenda, so we will have an introduction about TwoPart Software, about our portfolio and which products we provide you to enable your SAP integration. And Brett from Lightning Tools will do similar. And after that, we have live demos so that you can see our products in action. So far about the agenda, and sure at the end we'll have enough time to discuss your questions. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about TwoPart Software. So as a company, we are independent software vendor, and we have grown over 12 years to over 2,000 SAP customers worldwide. And I'm sure we are very proud of the customer numbers. Among those customers, you will find the biggest SAP installation so far. We have a partner network. It includes SAP technology partners like SAP, like Microsoft, and software vendors like Lightning Tools, and further partners for consulting, for services, and so far. We manage that at the moment from our headquarters in Stuttgart, but we have offices in the United States, in Seattle, for example, in Hong Kong, and so far, to be near to our customers and partners there. short, let me talk about our portfolio, about our tools and soft solutions that we offer for SAP integration. One of the areas that we offer solutions for is BI, business intelligence and analytics, but we also have solutions for application and business process integration. So think maybe of SharePoint or cloud solution like SharePoint Online, or maybe Salesforce or Dynamics CRM and so. And that is what we are talking about today. Especially it is here SAP Connect Services. And for the second part, for reporting, analytics and data warehousing, so in general, SAP customers have the need to bring their SAP data into third-party systems. It can be data warehouse, or it can be reporting or analytics tools. And as you see here, we offer different solutions for that to support the different scenarios. So that is so far about TwoPart software and our portfolio. Now let me switch again to Brett.
Yeah, hi. So Lightning Tools, similar space. As I mentioned, we've been a vendor. We're actually celebrating our 10th year this year, so we're a couple of years behind Theobald. But yeah, we actually started life around our BDC Metaman product 10 years ago, almost to the day. We have around 2,000 customers worldwide using a variety of different products. And they are primarily in the United States, but also you'll find customers all over the world, as I mentioned. We have two offices, one based here in the UK, that's our primary office, and we've also got an office in the US as well. Yeah, our products, as you'll see in just a moment, have also been awarded the SharePoint Code Quality certification by Rencor, also a German organization, and that is for basically the functionality as well as the code quality, which includes how usable, reliable, efficient and maintainable the products are. So just quickly before we jump back into looking at SAP, the products that Lightning Tools offer are also around business connectivity services, as mentioned, with BCS Metaman. We have the data visualization products that we'll be looking at today, the data viewer and the charting tool, but we also have another a list of products that are nothing to do with connecting to external data, but work with SharePoint, including an enterprise discussion forum product called Social Squared. We have permissions management and reporting, which is known as DeliverPoint, and also we have a content aggregation tool or list rollup tool, which is known as the Lightning Conductor. So what I'd like to first of all introduce before we start looking at ERP Connect from Theobald is just generally talk about business connectivity services. And business connectivity services has now been around for a while. So we have got some other webinars that you can look at. If you go to lightningtools.com and under webcasts, you'll find a whole list of webinars, and we have some webinars there on business connectivity services if you want to know more about BCS. But just to sort of give you the make sure everybody's on the same page as to what business connectivity services is. On the left-hand side, you'll see there's a column called the external content type, and that external content type is basically providing us with the connection to an external data source, and there's different methods inside that external content type, inside that XML file, that describe how we're going to work with the external data. So whether it's SAP or any other data source for that matter, we need to be able to return a list of all of that data. So there's actually a method there called the read list, or depending on whether you're a developer or whether you're looking at SharePoint in the SharePoint user interface, it may be read list, but to developers it's a finder method. We also have a read item, otherwise known as the specific finder method to developers, and then also we have a creator, updater and deleter method as well. And you'll see Coda go through these and show you these methods as he opens up the ERP Connect tool to connect to SAP. But these methods get called at different times in SharePoint depending on what you're doing. So for example, there's an external list. Now, users won't really care about whether they're using a SharePoint internal list, such as a task list or a contact list, whatever it is inside SharePoint that they're using on a daily basis, or if they're using an external list. And the only difference as far as a user is concerned is the fact that the data is coming from an external system. It will look and behave in the exact same way. Sure, there's a few things that you can't do, like there's no quick edit and things like that that you'd be used to, mainly because the data doesn't actually reside in SharePoint. But if you imagine a business user that's using SharePoint, they can access their vendors, they can access their customers and any other information, order information, things like that, and display it and write back to that data using the external list that resides inside their SharePoint team site. So that gives you the two-way functionality, which is optional. You don't have to allow them to create, update, and delete. You could just have it view only if you wanted to. But that's actually what the web parts do. So there's a suite of different web parts inside of SharePoint that allow you to not just display data on a page, but also create joins as well. So over on the external content type column, you'll see there's something called an association, and that is effectively a join between two different tables. So if you had, for example, a customer ID inside your customers table, and also that customer ID was present inside your orders table, you could create that one-to-many join or recreate that one-to-many join using Business Connectivity Services, and that allows you to use the business data list and the related list web parts in combination with each other. So on your dashboard, you can see all the related data when you select each customer. But it also offers search, so we have a one-stop shop, a single place that you can go to inside your SharePoint environment to be able to search on this information. So imagine searching on a customer name and it bringing back data from your external SAP environment, but also maybe documents about that customer that might be stored inside SharePoint document libraries as well. So, so it can bring back a ton of information that will be very relevant to that customer inside the same SharePoint search result pane. There's an external data column. That external data column is especially useful for document libraries, but you can create it in any SharePoint list or library. And what it allows you to do is look up data from the external system as metadata. So imagine you're creating a purchase order document, and that purchase order document is going to reside inside a document library. Of course, we want to know which customer is it for, or sorry, which vendor is it for, what product is it we're ordering, or who raised the purchase order, and so on. And that can be captured as information from the external data column. The benefit of that, if we just created a single string column for you to be able to type in the customer name or the vendor name, then there's going to lead to data inconsistency with typos or abbreviations and things like that. So actually looking up from SAP is extremely powerful when you're trying to store that data as metadata inside a document library. Finally, also you have user profiles. So that's one of the things that we as users are not very interested in. It's not as exciting as updating your LinkedIn profile or your Facebook profile. SharePoint profile just doesn't cut it. But if we already have that information somewhere in SAP, we can actually pull that into the SharePoint user profile as well. And that improves things like audience targeting and people searches inside of SharePoint. Other categories, not just SharePoint, but through SharePoint, you also have the Business Data Connectivity Runtime, which runs on your client that allows for Outlook, Word, Excel, and Visio integration as well with the data that comes from your SAP environment. So you can send emails and look up from your contacts. You can use things like quick parts inside of Microsoft Word. You can pull a whole table of information from an external list into Excel and create gauges in Visio. So, so there's all sorts of things that you can use there under the Office suite also. Tools that you require or may require. If you want to simply connect to something like Microsoft SQL, then SharePoint Designer will allow you to do that, but it only really has three options. One is Microsoft SQL, the other one is a .NET Assembly, and the other one is a WCF service. Those latter two you have to build yourself in Visual Studio. You have to create the code for the WCF service or create the code for the .NET assembly that returns data from any other external system. So Visual Studio in itself is a tool in order to provide the connectivity, but like I say, you do have to write code for that, but then use SharePoint Designer to actually write back to the metadata store in SharePoint to make that data available. Of course, if you're connecting to SAP, then there's ERP Connect Services, which you're about to see, and we also have BCS MetaMan, which if you're connecting to Salesforce.com or Dynamics CRM, Oracle or an ODBC data source or something like that, then BCS MetaMan will be able to help you there. Okay, Coda, do you want to flick to the next slide?
Okay. So let me continue. So thank you so far, Brett. Now it's my part. Now I would like to tell you more about ERP Connect Services. So ERP Connect Services is a solution for SAP integration with SharePoint on-premise and with SharePoint online and further cloud systems. Actually, I will show you now on SharePoint on-premise, for example, how to use one component of ERP Connect Services to bring the data as an external content type into SharePoint. And after that, Brett will show you how you can use further this SAP data with the components of Lightning tools and so forth. Beside that, I have another scenario on SharePoint on-premise, for example, to show you how you can use it in a workflow. One of the scenarios is to have a workflow in SharePoint. For example, you have an employee who requests something and you have a manager who have to approve that, and after that then the process should continue on the SAP side. So I will show you that, and after that I have prepared some scenario for cloud scenario where we are using Microsoft Flow and Salesforce. So here we will use another component for ERP Connect Services for the cloud integration, and in this scenario we have some accounts in Salesforce. And when an account is created as a customer in Salesforce, so Flow will run and will use our component to create a customer in the SAP system that runs on-premise. And after that, the number of the SAP customer created in SAP will be inserted into Salesforce. So as you see, we have scenarios for SharePoint on-prem and for cloud scenarios. So let me start now with the scenario on SharePoint on-prem. So at first we have here our component, the BCS connector, to bring the SAP data as an external content type into SharePoint. So at first I have here in the connector, I have the connection to the SharePoint system. That's fine so far. And then I need an SAP connection, as this case at the design time, to be able to search the SAP system for the business objects that I would like to bring to SharePoint. That's fine so far. And then here I can create new entity. As you see here, I have two options. So technically I can then access data from SAP using the table component. In this case, tables and views on the SAP can be accessed, or we can use the function module to access function modules and programs on SAP. So in this scenario, I will just use this table component. And now I can search directly on the SAP system for the data that I would like to have. So in this case, I would like to extract customer data from SAP. I need the name for that. Here I can search directly on the SAP system. And this table here provide me with customer master data. So I would like to select that table. So this is here the customer table name. I can change the name here. Let's say SAP customer 2, for example. SAP customer is fine. And here I see a list of the fields, so I can select which fields I would like to have. So this one here is the client. I don't need that. I have here this field. It's in general the customer number, so I can here rename it. I can select it. I have here this field for the country, for example, and I can rename it again. And then let me select this further field. It continues the customer name. And so far, let me maybe select this field here for the city. So as you see here, we have the operations for reading the data from SAP, and sure, it's possible here to create further operations. For example, if you'd like to edit data from SharePoint, from external list, for example, to create new item or update items in SAP. So that's possible so far. Okay, so now I am finished here with designing this. I can now save model. So this model will be now deployed directly into SharePoint as an external content type. Okay, that's fine. And now if I go here to my central administration, to the external content types, let me here update that. And now you see here our model SAP customer that's here, and here are the fields that we have selected. So that's fine so far. Now I can, for example, create an external list in SharePoint and use that. I can do that sure in SharePoint, or I can do that here in the BCS connector. Let me do that here. So this will be here the name of the external list. This is here the entity, and let's click on create. Okay, so that's fine. It has been created. And now if I go to my SharePoint, okay, I can find it there, but maybe it's better to find it here, SAP customer list. So it's faster. No? Okay. So as you see now, the data has been extracted directly from the SAP system, and I have them here in SharePoint. So I have a live connection to the SAP system. Always when I refresh here, the data will be requested again from SAP. So after that, Brett will show you further possibilities how to use this data, for example, for visualization and so far with the web parts that are provided by Lighting Tools. Okay, so that's fine so far. So this was one component. We offer sure further possibilities. For example, we offer a runtime that can be used where you can develop your own applications. It can be a mobile application, or maybe an application that run in SharePoint or on a desktop and so far. And in this case, for example, I have here an application that show me my stock information from the SAP system. So in this case here, I can search for a material number. Sorry, and as you see now, I have here the material list from SAP directly. Okay, now I can select which material number, and I have the material description. This comes directly from SAP using a library that we provide for that, a JavaScript library and REST services, everything provided by SAP Connect Services. So here I can select my material. I have here show the possibility to select further fields and then click on search. And as you see now, the data comes directly from the SAP system. And here I have so further data about that. So this is here a scenario just to showing, let's say, SAP data in the application in SharePoint. We have further possibilities, for example, let's say to create something in SAP. I will do that, but in this case using an index workflow. For that, I have here a simple scenario. I have just a SharePoint list. I would like to create a purchase requisition in SAP. So let me create here new. I'm using in this case Nintex form and Nintex workflow. So here I just set the material number, and then I need further fields. As you see now, the material description comes directly from the SAP system, again using the REST services that we provide. So here you have the possibility directly in the Nintex form to check your data or to get any data from SAP Live. So now I need further fields. So for example, the plant, and I need the quantity. I have to set the delivery date, and then to set the cost center. Okay, and I click on save. So as you see here now, I am here logged as an employee, and here I have a workflow that is now in progress. So let me now log in here as a manager. Let me go to my workflow task. So you see here I have a request approval that's pending. Okay, so let me improve that, and here you have then the data requested. For example, the material number, the quantity, and so far. Okay, so I will say okay. And now let's update it. So here is still pending, so the workflow is still pending, but now, okay, it's approved. That's fine. Now if I switch again here as employee to my list and refresh it again, so you will see now I have a purchase requisition number. That means that this purchase requisition has been created in SAP, and this is here the number returned from the SAP system. Okay, let's check that in SAP. I will show you that in SAP. Okay. Sorry, so I have to log in again to my SAP system. Okay, so that's fine. And now let's check that the purchase requisition has been created in SAP. I have copied the requisition number, and as you see now here, I have this position. This was the material number and the quantity requested. So everything is fine, and we have that. Let me show you here in SharePoint. If I go now here to workflow settings, to manage workflow, you can see now I have here an Nintex workflow, and for that I have used a custom action provided by SAP Connect Services in this case here. So it is just normal Nintex workflow, and I have just used one action from us to create that purchase requisition in SAP, and that return the number of the purchase requisition from SAP. In the configure action, you can see here further details. For example, this is here the name of the SAP function of the SAP program that is used to connect to the SAP system, and here you have the parameters, for example, to fill the data and the output data that returns from SAP in this case and so far. So as you've seen, it's really very easy and straightforward. Okay, so that was so far about the possibilities that you have here in SharePoint on-premise. So we have seen a scenario for integration with Nintex workflow. We have seen a scenario with an app, and sure, the scenario with creating or with bringing data to the business connectivity services in SharePoint. Okay, so now let me switch to another scenario in the cloud. So here again in the cloud, as you can see here now, I am on SharePoint Online. So here again, sure, you can have the same scenario. So for example, I have here the same scenario with creating SAP purchasing request in SharePoint Online, again using, for example, an Nintex workflow or Microsoft Flow that's supported to. Or I can have again an application for example, in this case here, to create an SAP quotation directly from Office 365 or SharePoint Online in this case. So here I have an SAP quotation. I can here set my the material number again, or set the quantity, let's say for example 13, and click on save. So in this case, SAP quotation will be created directly in the SAP system. This app is running in the cloud, but my SAP system is running on premise, and I have a secure connection, for example, using Azure Service Bus and so far. Okay, so that's successful, and here I have the quotation number created in SAP. So now if I go again to the SAP system, I will find the quotations there. So that's fine so far. Now let me come to the last scenario that I have talked about. It is about synchronizing data between Salesforce and SAP. So as you know, Salesforce is a cloud application. In this case here, I have accounts. As you can see, I have here an account name, and yeah, I have an account name. And actually what I would like to have is, in general, the scenario is that the type is here prospect. And as you see here, I have further information about the SAP data. Let me update it again, please. Okay, so that's fine. So I have here a customer. The type is prospect. And when I change the type, I would like that this customer is created in SAP. So let me go and edit that. So I change now the type to customer direct. And to create the customer in SAP, I may need some further information. For example, the sales organization or company code and so far. So I can select that here. And as you see now, the SAP ID is empty. Now I can click on save. Now in the background, I am using in this scenario Microsoft Flow. I am not sure if you have experience with that. In this case, in Flow, I have a workflow. As you see now, it's running. And in that workflow, I have a Salesforce trigger that check when a record is modified and so far. And I'm checking, for example, if the account type is customer. You see now everything here is green. And then I will call a web service that is provided by our solution to create that SAP customer in the SAP system. And after that, we will get the result. We will parse the result. As you can see here, I have here, for example, the customer number, and that result will be again, if everything is successful, as you see here, updated in Salesforce. So let me now go again to my account in Salesforce. As you see, the SAP ID was empty. Now, if I update it, okay, you see here I have the SAP customer number 84. So let's check that again in SAP. Okay, so SAP, okay, so I have to log in again, it's okay. Okay, so this one here, again, it was the table for customers, and now let's check. Okay, so as you see now here, the customer 84 has been created in SAP. So that was the scenario here for cloud integration between Salesforce and SAP on-premise. The main idea is that you are able to integrate your SAP systems that is on-premise, either with SharePoint on-premise or with SharePoint Online or with any further cloud application. That was so far my part. Now we will switch again to Brett. Brett, can you hear me?
Can, yep. So just waiting for you to log off there, and we're going to log into the same environment. So just take a moment here for me to log back into the remote desktop.
Okay. So I will make you presenter in this time. Is okay?
Yep. If you can make me presenter, and we can share my screen, and we'll continue looking at two of our products. So so those two products being the data viewer and also the chart web part. Okay, and we should be good. You should be seeing my screen now with a bit of luck.
Yeah, we can see that.
Fantastic. Oh, that's what happens if you Google SharePoint 2016. Sorry, let's not do that. Okay, so so what I'd like to do is use some of the connections that have already been created via the SAP ERP Connect Services to basically build and present the data using two of our web part components, and one of those is, as I mentioned, the data viewer. So what I'm going to do here is just simply navigate into the site pages where these web parts are already deployed. So we have the SAP data viewer present here. Now, first of all, let me just introduce why you might want to look at using this product. One of the most powerful things to do in SharePoint is to utilize that data inside the external list. So the external list, as I mentioned, already allows you to be able to create items and edit those items and even delete the items as well. The downside is when you want to make any sort of customization to the look and feel of that data. Now, this could be something extremely straightforward, such as you want to add a little bit of styling, maybe just even like sorry, if you wanted to do some data formatting, so you wanted to format something into currency, or SAP sometimes doesn't present the date time fields very well, so if you wanted to do some manipulation around the way that the date times are displayed, just something small like that can actually be a big effort using SharePoint natively. So you first of all have to go through using the external list and modifying the XSLT data, of which you're literally just working with a notepad style environment with no syntax help at all whilst you're trying to make those modifications inside an external list view. So once upon a time we could have easily modified these views inside SharePoint Designer, but as you're probably aware by now that SharePoint Designer has lost the design tab, and in order for people to not complain about that, they at the same time made the product free. So yeah, you can go into SharePoint Designer, you only get the code editor, which means any design changes you want to make all have to be in code. So the data viewer is really not necessarily just a replacement for the external list, but allows you to present the data in a different way. And gets rid of some of that frustration that you might have had, such as being able to do multiple levels of grouping, being able to do conditional formatting and data formatting, and so on and so forth. So Code has kindly deployed the web part already. You can see we've got the SAP data is actually categorized by country, so we have Deutschland or Germany and also the USA, so we have that categorization already, and we've also got some conditional formatting going on in here as well, which is actually highlighting any data in Berlin in a certain color so that it stands out. So we also have the ability to filter the data on any of the columns that are displayed inside the web part through the top there. So let's have a look at how this is configured. So in the drop down of the web part, we can go to configure web part. Notice that you can also export the data to Excel or CSV as well. And under the web part tab inside the data viewer web part, we have a drop down which first of all doesn't just allow us to connect to business connectivity services and in this case SAP data, but also allows us to connect to other data sources as well. So you can connect to Oracle and Microsoft SQL or ODBC. You can even connect to a SharePoint list. So if you wanted to take a list from one site and display it inside another site, you could do that. And you can also work with OData and XML as well. So we can simply select the data source provider that we want to work with. There is a display provider as well. So using the grid view, this is a way where we can easily, without any code experience, just simply go through and select the columns that we want to see. You can change the order of those columns. You can do the data formatting, conditional formatting, all just simply by pointing and clicking through the tabs that we're going to go through here inside the web part. However, if you wanted to do something specific, you can do that using Excel and JSON. So if you wanted to get your hands dirty with some Excel or even use JavaScript to work with the data that's coming from your SAP environment to do a special kind of view, then that's something you can create. And there are some built-in views that you'll come across as well. For example, if you're working with a task list or a calendar list from SharePoint, then you can display that data as a calendar. So you actually have a working calendar displaying that data from a different site. So on the data source tab, that will vary based on obviously which data source we selected. So you can see here, simply because we chose Business Connectivity Services as our data source, that we can go through and select the external content type. So in here we've got the list of external content types that are available. This one here, the KNA1, is the one that was created before. If I'm right, Coda, the one that you just created here was the SAP customer.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I can select SAP customer, and that allows me to then go through and map these different methods. So right at the start, I introduced these methods, and you saw Coda working with them, so we can actually specify the finder method, the creator, updater, and deleter method, and so on, can all be selected through there. So we're just working here with the finder method, which makes this read-only. When we go to the columns tab, this then shows me the columns that I can select from. So notice we see those columns that Coda made available. So we've got the customer number, the name of the customer, the country, and the city. There's filtering that you can work with, so we can filter on each column, and you can also do advanced filtering as well. So through the advanced filtering, this actually allows us to filter across columns with either an and or an or, and also go off into different branches as well. So we could, for example, trying to think of a case here, but if we said the city is Berlin, or you might be from France, if you wanted to do that, then you could achieve it. And also we could nest some of these filters as well with an and or an or statement as well. So you can get some very powerful filters being created through the advanced filtering. You also have the ability to create a calculated column, and with that you could do maybe some concatenation. So if you were returning, for example, the first name and the last name, we could obviously create a full name, or if you wanted to do some price manipulation for different taxes in different countries based on the list price, or work out units in stock and that kind of thing, you could build that here with the calculated column. And we simply give the data type and the field type names here that you can insert into the expression window to build some form of calculation, and also set the return type there as well. So you can create columns, you can do a bit of manipulation with the data through that. And then under the display tab is where we can refine the view. So as I mentioned, you do have some data formatting. It's not going to be too interesting to see here since these are all strings, but if we had date times, then you could format those into short dates or long dates. If it was a numerical field, we could format that into a percentage or a currency, whatever is relevant to the data. And notice also you have the column alias. So I know this can sometimes be challenging in with SAP for some of the column headers, but if we wanted to, for example, have a space between customer and number, then we could do that by setting a column alias in there. You can have grouping, So let's in fact turn off the grouping by country. We'll just list the data, and I'll do some formatting in just a moment. How many items per page do we want to return as well could be set here. And we can also open up the item. So if you wanted to open it to view it, then you can set a hyperlink on any of the columns that might be relevant in there as well. Under the conditional formatting, let's go through and just simply remove the conditional formatting on the city, and instead we will we'll apply some more conditional formatting to that. So let's just apply the conditional formatting to the entire row. I'll choose a background color, and I'll try and not make it a ghastly color, which sometimes happens in demonstrations. I don't know why we're always drawn to the brightest green possible. And we'll set the city equal to Stuttgart, since that's the one that I can see there in the background. And we can add several layers of formatting if we like, or we can just go ahead and save that. You also have summary functions, so we could do a running total of, maybe do a count of how many customers we have in each region, that sort of thing. So we can always select a summary function here and provide a count of some sort. You can also refine other bits and pieces, like where do the pagination controls go, do we want to allow insert, update, and delete as well. Obviously that would require that we have those methods created inside the external content type, but if we do, then we can also write back to the data source. So if we're happy with that, we just hit save, and this should then change the view that we saw. So you can see now that we've got a different display of that data with the conditional formatting applied to anybody from any of our customers from Stuttgart, and we've also got the pagination at the bottom there. So although that's not the prettiest view with that color blue, hopefully it gives you an idea as to how you might want to display some of that data using the data viewer, and really work with it to display a dashboard. And what we also have is the charting tool. So I'm just going to navigate back to site pages for a moment and go to the SAP data chart. Okay, so this is a charting tool for SharePoint, and again, it can work with all kinds of external and internal SharePoint data. What we're working with here is that exact same external content type, where we're just simply representing the number of customers that we have in a pie chart. You can do some interesting things like click on the pie, you can spin it around, and all sorts of things like that. If you're bored and sat there in a conference call, that passes some time. But what we can also do is obviously go through and reconfigure it. So as I go to edit this chart, we'll walk through the configuration and change the chart type, so you can look at some of the different chart types that we have. So in the drop down under the data source provider, as I mentioned, it doesn't just work with business connectivity services and therefore SAP. We can connect to, again, SharePoint lists, SQL databases or Oracle databases, etc. You can also connect to a web part in the page, and one of those web parts can also be the data viewer web part from Lightning Tools. So if you don't want to basically configure two components, you could configure the data viewer web part, apply the filters that you want to set, and choose which external content type you're going to work with, which fields you want to display, and so on, and then simply use web part connections to provide that data to the chart web part. We're then working with that data directly, and we can have essentially a dashboard page, so as you change a filter in one web part, it's going to reflect the same filter change in the other web part, and so on. And even both components, the data viewer and the chart web part, could both get their filters from some of the out-of-the-box filter web parts that you get with SharePoint. So we're working with business data connectivity here. You can see it's connecting to the SAP system. This was the external content type created by Coda. We can view the data, which allows us to see a sample of what data we're going to be working with. So in here we've got the same fields that you saw with the data viewer web part. As we navigate through, you can then select the columns that you want to work with. So our columns are selected here, and we can go through to filter the data as well if we want. So you'll see here we've got the country and the customer number. So if we wanted to filter based on a particular country or a particular city, we could do that. So we could just simply hit the drop down and choose the relevant field. Now we also have the grouping of data. So here we are grouping by the country, and if we scroll down, you'll see that we are then doing a sum on the customer number. In fact, we'll change that to account. So that way we get to see how many customers we have in each region. So I can apply that, and now we get a count of customers per region displayed inside the pie chart. Okay, you can show the top X% of the records returned, and we can also change the chart type as well. So so here, for example, we could have instead of a pie chart, we have other single series charts such as a 3D column chart, and we can preview that. So before we even go through and apply it, we can have a look at what that's going to look like inside the chart preview pane. So we can do that. Obviously you can have 3D or 2D, there's funnel charts and waterfall charts and things like that we can select from. There's also in the drop down here multiple series charts. So it's also possible to mix multiple series within a chart, as well as using combination charts. So you could have a line chart combined with a stacked chart or something to that effect. So you already saw a pie chart, and although this is convincingly showing more countries within one country, we'll go through and display a column chart instead. Notice you can do all of the formatting that you want to work with, so we can change all the column headers, so therefore providing things like a chart title. So we'll have this as number of orders per country or number of customers per country, whatever. We can label the X and Y axis and so on. We can also go through and change every aspect of color, line depth, background, so on and so forth as you go through this. So the chart background can be changed. At the moment it's got a grey shaded canvas which kind of looks very last decade, so what we could do is just set that through to plain white, or get rid of the canvas altogether if we wanted to. So as we preview that, it looks less SharePoint 2003 and more SharePoint 2016. You can change the number formatting, you can add trend lines. Something that wouldn't be easy to demonstrate with just the data that we've got from this table, but is extremely powerful, is the drill down as well. So what we could do, let's say you're showing the number of orders per quarter within inside the chart, or the number of sales per quarter within a chart. You could actually enable a drill down to drill into the data and show us the number of orders per month, or the number of orders per week, and the number of orders per day as you click the bar in the chart. But one of the things we could do just to show some level of drill down is we'll just show the underlying data as you click the chart as well. So we'll go through and apply that. You can also allow dynamic filters. So a dynamic filter allows the end user to filter on any column they wish. Maybe we don't want them filtering on anything, so we can basically just enable the filtering, and they can choose which country they want to filter on. So we could apply that. So they can now filter by country, and we can also have the. In fact, let's do more than one of those. And we can also allow for export settings as well. So if you wanted to export this data as into Excel as a chart, or you wanted to be able to print it, then you could do that through here on the last node there. So we'll click finish, and there's our chart. So we definitely need some more customers in different regions, but you can see there that the US and Germany have the monopoly on that data. And as we click it, like I said, we get a preview of the data in there as well. But that could equally take us to another page and actually show us the source through the data viewer part, or it could drill down and show a chart in place of this one. And we also have the filtering capabilities in here. So there's the columns that I made filterable, so we can go through and select them. And in fact, let's go through and obviously that's not going to be the most interesting one. So let's show a couple of different regions here. So we can now preview what our chart is going to look like and apply that. And so that's a client-side filter that wouldn't affect anybody else's use of the charting tool. Okay, so that's a demonstration of the data viewer and also the chart web part from Lightning Tools. I'm going to once again make Coda the presenter, and Coda, you can continue with the slide deck.
Okay, thank you so far. Okay, Brett, thank you so far for your live demo. Can you see my presentation?
Yep, all looks good.
Okay, perfect. So as I see, we have only 2 or 3 minutes, so I will just maybe talk just 1 minute about here the benefits that you might have with SAP integration and why does it matter in general. Let's say that the SAP customers have often the need to bring their SAP data, the data of the business objects and business processes from SAP into third-party systems. In this case, maybe SharePoint on-premise and SharePoint online and so far. And they need your tools and solutions that are secure, that are reliable, that are certified by SAP, that are cost effective, and so far. And those are some of the advantages that you have here with SAP Connect Services and with the tools and the web parts that you have seen from Lightning Tools. Sure, you have further advantages in this case. For example, you don't have to program or make any coding. You can use just no-code solutions. You don't need any additional middleware, let's say SAP maybe Gateway or SAP Process Integrator and so far. And it's sure what is important is that is cost effective and that the customer has a low TCO. Sure, you can have a trial version of our product of SAP Connect Services and of the tools from Lightning Tools, and on the websites you will have further information about that, and sure about success stories, how customers are using that and what are the scenarios, since there are many different scenarios about that. And you can find further best practices and technical documentation and so far. Brett, I would say let's start with Q&A session and check if anyone have questions so far.
Yeah, absolutely. So so what we can do, if you want to ask a question, you can raise your hand using the GoToWebinar software. So if you'd like to raise your hand if you do have a question that you want to ask, I can then unmute you and you'll be able to ask your question. Or as Coda pointed out, if you wanted to ask a question via email, you can email me on brett@lightningtools.com. Coda, sorry, would you like to just flick back to your email address again? There we go.
Yeah, you have here the contact data.
Perfect. So so either ask a question there, or also if you want to raise your hand, I'll unmute you right now and you'll be able to ask your question.
So in many cases, maybe questions come later.
Absolutely.
So it shouldn't be any problem. So you can contact us, and surely if you'd like to have a trial version or do you need any support during the trial and so far, from our side and from Lightning Tools, you will get free support during that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't see anybody raising a hand. So yeah, we could make up a question maybe, but maybe not. Okay, so well, I just want to thank everybody for joining the webinar in that case. Thank you, Coda, as well for doing the demonstration of SAP ERP Connect. So once again, if you do have any questions afterwards, please feel free to email us. The webinar was recorded as well, so if you wanted to play this back to any colleagues, it's going to be available on the Lightning Tools website. So under webcasts, you'll find it. But I'm also going to send that through to an email that to everybody that registered, so you'll be able to link back to it that way as well. So yeah, thanks again, Coda, and thank you everybody for joining this afternoon.
Thank you from my side. Thank you everyone to join us. Have a nice day and goodbye.
Thank you.